Hi guys, welcome to Memo's Tutorials. We are looking at homeostasis in humans today, and we have touched it a little bit when we looked at the negative feedback mechanism on the endocrine system there. So here on homeostasis, we're mainly focusing on the constant internal environment within the body, meaning to say we are maintaining everything has to be stable, everything has to be in a uniform, in a certain uniform, meaning to say if the levels go up or they go down, we'll have a problem. At the end of the day, we'll say this person is not feeling well, and we are going to look at negative feedback mechanism, which now I know you guys now are familiar with it, since we looked at it on our previous video. If you do not see our videos on endocrine system, please go back and visit them, because here we are just going to move over. We'll focus on the regulation of glucose levels in the internal environment. We'll look at glucose. We'll focus when the glucose levels in the blood increases above normal, and also when they are below normal. How then does your body bring them back to normal? Okay, so the first step when we're looking at this feedback is that the glucose levels in the blood, they increase above normal levels. This is the problem that is at hand. And what happens is the pancreas is stimulated. Remember, the pancreas, we said, is the one that releases insulin hormones, and what does the insulin hormone do? It stimulates the conversion of glucose into glycogen. So now, once the pancreas is stimulated, it's going to secrete insulin into the blood. And what's the insulin going to do? It's going to, the insulin will travel in the blood to the liver. That's the target organ. And this liver, what is it going to do? It stimulates the conversion of excess glucose into glycogen, right? And we store our glucose in the form of glycogen. So now the glucose level in the blood, they will decrease. Once that starts happening, your glucose levels in the blood, they will decrease and they return back to normal, right? And usually our glucose levels, they go way up during the fed state, just after having a meal. Most of our meals, they contain glucose. Where you eat anything starchy, at the end of the day, you have glucose. You eat a lot of proteins, some of them are going to be converted to glucose anyway. So now, at your fed state, your glucose levels, they will go ridiculously high, and all thanks to the pancreas for stimulating the insulin to stabilize everything and bring them back to normal. And then we have cases where we say the fasting stage, where you are not getting any glucose, but then your body needs glucose, and your glucose needs to be maintained at the same level, right? So now your glucose levels, they are getting down, they are below normal. You are sleeping, for the 10 hours, 8 hours, you've been sleeping, you're not eating anything. That's your fasting stage. And some people, they literally choose to fast. Okay, so now what happens is your glucose levels in the blood, they start getting low, they are below normal. And what happens is, again, the pancreas is stimulated, it secretes glucagon into the blood, and the glucagon will travel to the liver, where it is going to stimulate the conversion of the stored glycogen back to glucose. And the glucose level in the blood now will start increasing, right? Because the glycogen is now being converted back to glucose. Your glucose levels, they start increasing, and at the end of the day, your glucose has been normalized. It is back to normal. So this is just the negative feedback mechanism on regulating the blood glucose levels, right? So if you're when we're reading this diagram, we must always start from the normal glucose levels in the blood. So if there's an increase in the blood glucose levels, the pancreas is stimulated, and it's going to release to secrete a lot of insulin, and insulin is going to target your liver and cause your liver to convert the excess glucose to glycogen, and the glucose levels, they decrease and come back to normal. But then in a case where you are at a fasting stage and your glucose levels, they are below normal, what happens is the pancreas is stimulated again and it secretes a hormone called glucagon. And what the glucagon does is it converts glycogen into glucose in your liver, and your glucose levels, they increase and they come back to normal. So this was just the negative feedback mechanism for glucose levels. On our next video, I'll be explaining the regulation of carbon dioxide levels in the internal environment. I'm sure you're aware that we breathe in oxygen and take out as much carbon dioxide as possible, but then how are they maintained in our bodies? And we're also going to look at the regulation of water balance in the internal environment, which we call osmoregulation. That will be on our next video.